Alkaloo, South Carolina, March 1944. In a police station stands a 14-year-old boy alone. George Stinney Jr. is his name. He weighs 90 lb. The handcuffs slide loose around his thin wrists. For his mother he asks, but no one calls her. He asks for water and they bring a glass, but their eyes tell him he is already guilty. Outside, a crowd forms. Inside, men in uniforms decide his fate before any trial begins. Near the railroad tracks, 2 white girls have been found dead in a ditch. Someone saw George talking to them earlier that day. That is enough. In 1944, South Carolina, for a black child, that is more than enough. George is a shy boy. For his sisters, he picks flowers. He helps his father carry lumber. When it is open, he goes to the colored school, which is not often. His family lives in a mill town where the white families own everything and the black families own nothing. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone knows their place. But now, 2 children are dead, and the white community wants an answer. They want it fast. They want it simple. And George Stinney Jr., a boy who has never been in trouble, who has never raised his voice, becomes that answer. Without his parents present, they take him from his home. For hours they question him. No lawyer, no witness, no record of what was said. Later, the sheriff will claim George confessed, but there is no written confession, no signature, no proof. Just the word of white men against the silence of a terrified child. That same night, his family is forced to flee Alkaloo. Threats arrive, rocks through windows. Voices shouting in the dark. They leave George behind, not because they want to, but because they have no choice. In the Jim Crow South, a black family cannot protect their son from the system. They can only run. 81 days later, George Stinney Jr. will be strapped into the electric chair. He will be so small that they have to use a bubble as a booster seat. The executioners will struggle to fit the mask over his face. And when the switch is thrown, his body will convulse so violently that the mask will slip off, revealing his face to the witnesses. Before we continue this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments which city you're watching from. Stories like this must never be forgotten. Let's continue. Spring 1944. The world is at war, but in Alkaloo, South Carolina, life moves to an older rhythm. 6 days a week the lumber mill runs. White families live in painted houses with porches. Black families live in unpainted shacks near the tracks. The children play separately. The churches are separate. The water fountains are separate. This is not cruelty, the white folks say. This is just the way things are. George Stinney Jr. is the second youngest of 6 children. At the mill his father works, carrying boards in the heat, his hands scarred and calloused. For white families his mother washes clothes, scrubbing until her knuckles bleed. George is small for his age, quiet, polite. Yes, sir. And no, Mom, he says. Without being told, he knows the rules. Stay on your side of town. Don't look white people in the eye. Don't talk back. Don't make trouble. These rules are not written down, but every black child in Alkaloo knows them by heart. On March 23, 1944, 2 white girls go missing. Betty June Binnicker is 11. Mary Emma Thames is 7. In the afternoon they leave their homes on bicycles looking for flowers. When night falls and they do not return, search parties form. Through the woods men carry lanterns. Into the darkness mothers call their names. The next morning, their bodies are found in a water-filled ditch near the railroad tracks. Their skulls are crushed. The town goes silent with shock, then roars with rage. Someone must pay. Someone will pay. And in a place where justice wears the face of white supremacy, the question is not who is guilty. The question is who can be made to look guilty fast enough to satisfy the mob. Before noon, the sheriff arrives at the Stinney home. On the porch steps George is sitting, carving a piece of wood with a pocket knife his grandfather gave him. Beside him, his younger sister, Aim, is braiding grass into a chain. When the patrol car stops in the yard, George stands. He has done nothing wrong, but his heart pounds anyway. In Alcaloo, a police car in a black family's yard never means anything good. "Boy, come here," the sheriff says. Slowly, George walks forward. At the mill is his father. Inside, his mother is hanging laundry. She hears the voice and comes to the door, drying her hands on her apron. "What do you want with my son?" she asks, her voice steady but her eyes afraid. "Just need to ask him some questions," the sheriff says. "About those girls." George's mother steps onto the porch. "He don't know nothing about that." Then he won't mind answering a few questions. Right there they take him. No warrant, no explanation. On foot, his mother follows the car for half a mile before she loses sight of it on the main road. Through the rear window, George looks back and sees her standing in the dust, one hand raised as if she can pull him back by will alone. At the station, they put him in a room with no windows. 3 men come in and out. Over and over they ask the same questions. "Did you see the girls? Did you talk to them? Where were you? What did you do?" George tells the truth. "Yes, he saw them." They asked him where they could find maypop flowers, and he pointed toward the railroad tracks. That was all. He went home. He did his chores. He ate supper. He went to bed. But the truth is not enough. Close. The men lean. They raise their voices. One slams his hand on the table. George flinches. He is 14, but he looks 12. He has never been hit by a white man, but he has seen what happens to black men who anger them. He has seen men dragged from their homes. He has heard stories his parents tell in whispers, stories that end with trees and ropes and bodies left as warnings. "Tell us what you did." One of them says. "I didn't do nothing," George whispers. "Don't lie to us, boy." Hours pass. George asks for his mother. They do not bring her. For water, he asks. They bring it eventually, but by then his throat is too tight to swallow. He asks to go home. They laugh, not a kind laugh, a laugh that says he will never go home again. Later, the sheriff will write in his report that George confessed. He will say, "George described hitting the girls with a railroad spike." He will say, "George showed no remorse." But there is no confession in writing, no recording, no witness who is not a police officer. Just words on a page written by men who needed a confession to exist. That night, George is moved to the county jail in Columbia, 50 miles away. The sheriff says it is for his own protection, but everyone knows the truth. If they keep him in Alcaloo, the white men will take him from the jail and finish the job themselves. There have been lynchings in South Carolina. Many lynchings. The system knows that if it wants George Stinney dead, it must do the killing legally, with a judge and a jury and the appearance of justice. Back in Alcaloo, George's family packs what they can carry. After dark, neighbors come to the door and tell them to leave tonight. Now, the Stinney house is too close to the white part of town. Someone has already thrown a rock through the window. Someone has already shouted threats from the road. Into a borrowed truck, George's father loads his children. His mother takes one last look at the house where George was born, where he learned to walk, where last summer he carved his name into the door frame. Then she climbs in, and they drive into the night, leaving their son behind because staying would mean death for all of them. On a concrete floor, George spends his first night in jail. There is no blanket. There is no mattress. Into a ball he curls and tries not to cry, but the tears come anyway, silent and hot. About his mother he thinks. About Aim he thinks. He wonders if they are safe. He wonders if anyone is coming to help him. He does not know that his family is gone. He does not know that no one is coming. For April 24th, 1944, the trial is set. 1 month. In that month, George sees no one from his family. No letters reach him. No visitors are allowed. A lawyer is appointed, but the man is young, inexperienced, and shows no interest in defending a black boy accused of killing white children. Charles Plowden is his name. He meets George once, maybe twice. No questions he asks. No witnesses he calls. He does not investigate the scene. He does not request a postponement to prepare. He simply waits for the trial date, like a man waiting for a train he knows is late, but will arrive eventually. In the white community, there is no doubt. George Stinney is guilty. The newspapers say so. The sheriff says so. The men in the barber shop and the women in the grocery store say so. No one asks why a 90-lb boy would kill 2 girls for no reason. No one asks how he could overpower them both. No one asks where the railroad spike is because it was never found. No one asks why there is no blood on his clothes, no scratches on his hands, no evidence of any kind except the word of men who needed someone to blame. April 24th arrives. Packed is the courthouse in Manning. White faces fill every seat. Wearing clothes too big for him, George is led in, his wrists still lost inside the handcuffs. For his mother he looks around, but she is not there. No one from his family is there. They were not told about the trial. Or if they were told in a way that made it clear they should not come. At 10:00 in the morning the trial begins. Its witnesses the prosecution calls, the doctor who examined the bodies, the man who found them, the sheriff who claims George confessed. With certainty each one speaks. Each one looks at George as if he is not a child, but a monster. No one the defense calls. No objections does Plowden make. On cross-examination he asks no questions. No alternative theory he presents. He does nothing. At one point, George's lawyer stands and says, "The defense rests." That is all. 3 words. The defense rests, as if there was a defense to begin with. As if anything that happened in that courtroom was designed to find the truth. The jury is 12 white men, all of them. Farmers, shopkeepers, men who know exactly what is expected of them. They leave the courtroom to deliberate. 10 minutes later, they return. The foreman stands. For the verdict, the judge asks, "Guilty." The word drops like a stone into water. At first, George does not understand. He looks at his lawyer, waiting for him to object, to appeal, to do something. But Plowden is already gathering his papers. To stand, the judge asks George. George stands. His legs shake. "George Stinney, Jr., you have been found guilty of murder. I hereby sentence you to death by electrocution." George's knees buckle. By the arm a deputy catches him and holds him upright. The courtroom is silent. No one gasps. No one protests. This is the outcome everyone expected. This is justice Jim Crow style. Efficient, brutal, final. From jury selection to sentencing, the entire trial lasts 2.2 hours. To his cell in Columbia, George is returned. The death warrant is signed. For June 16, 1944, the execution is scheduled. 83 days from arrest to execution. In that time, no appeals are filed. No new evidence is examined. No one from the governor's office questions whether a 14-year-old child should be put to death. With cold efficiency, the machine moves forward. What death by electrocution means, George does not understand. The phrase he has heard, but he cannot picture it. He knows people die, but he cannot imagine his own death. He is 14. At 14, death is something that happens to old people, to soldiers overseas, to characters in stories. Not to him, not in a room with witnesses, and a leather strap and a switch on the wall. Together the days blur. Morning light through a barred window. Meals pushed through a slot. The sound of other prisoners coughing, pacing, shouting at ghosts only they can see. George asks the guards if his mother has come. They say no. He asks if he can write her a letter. They bring him paper, but George can barely write. A few sentences in pencil he manages. The letters crooked and childish. "Mama, I miss you. I didn't do nothing. Please come get me." The letter he gives to a guard. He does not know if it is ever mailed. In another county, the Stinney family tries to survive. With relatives they are living now, sleeping on floors, sharing what little food there is. George's father cannot find work. Everyone knows his name. Everyone knows his son is the boy who killed those white girls. It does not matter that there was no real trial. It does not matter that George is a child. In the eyes of the white community, and even some in the black community, the Stinneys are tainted, dangerous, best avoided. George's mother stops eating. Thin and gray she grows. At night she lies awake and sees her son's face. His voice asking for her she hears. She prays until her knees ache, but the prayers feel hollow. God does not answer, or if he does, his answer is silence. Weeks pass. George's hair grows longer. His face grows thinner. To himself he talks sometimes. Quiet conversations with people who are not there. To his sister Aim he talks. To his father he talks. To the girls who died he talks, asking them why this is happening, asking them to tell someone he did not hurt them. But the dead do not answer either. In early June, a priest comes to see him. Father McGowan is an older man with kind eyes and a soft voice. Outside George's cell he sits and speaks to him through the bars. He does not ask if George is guilty. He does not lecture him about sin. He simply talks about God, about forgiveness, about heaven. George listens, but he does not understand why the priest is telling him these things. He does not understand that the priest is preparing him to die. Will it hurt? George asks one day. Father McGowan pauses. He wants to lie to comfort this child, but he cannot. "I don't know, son, but it will be quick." "Will I see my mama after?" "In heaven."
"Yes."
"You'll see her again." George nods. He wants to believe that. He needs to believe that because if heaven is not real, if there is nothing after this, then everything he has endured is for nothing. June 16, 1944. The day arrives like any other. The sun rises. Birds sing. In the prison, breakfast is served. George cannot eat. With fear his stomach is knotted. To his cell guards come mid-morning. They tell him it is time. He asks if his mother is here. They shake their heads. He asks if he can wait one more day. They do not answer. The cell door they open and lead him down a long hallway. The execution chamber is a small room with concrete walls and a single chair in the center. The chair is made of wood and metal with straps for the arms, the legs, the chest. From the chair wires run to a machine against the wall. There are witnesses sitting in rows of wooden benches. Newspaper reporters, law enforcement, citizens who wanted to watch. Their faces are blank, unreadable. No one looks at George with pity. No one looks away in shame. George is so small that when they sit him in the chair, his feet do not touch the ground. At each other the guards look, unsure what to do. One of them leaves and returns with a Bible, a thick King James Version bound in black leather. On the seat beneath George they place it, boosting him up so the straps will fit properly. On the word of God George sits as they prepare to kill him. His arms down they strap. His legs they strap. His chest they strap so tight he can barely breathe. To his head, one of the guards attaches a metal cap, and George feels the cold steel against his scalp. With a mask another guard approaches, a heavy leather hood designed to cover the face so witnesses do not have to see the condemned person's expression. But the mask is made for an adult. When they pull it over George's head, it hangs loose, too big, covering his entire face and slipping down to his chest. George is shaking now. His whole body trembles. He tries to speak, but his voice comes out as a whimper. "I didn't do it. I didn't hurt nobody. No one responds. The signal the warden gives. Behind a partition hidden, the executioner throws the switch. Through George Stinney's body surge 2,000 volts of electricity. His small frame convulses violently. The straps creak. The chair shudders, and because the mask is too large, it slides off his face, falling to his lap. Everything the witnesses see. They see his eyes wide and terrified. They see his mouth open in a silent scream. They see a child dying in a chair built for grown men. His body too small, his crime unproven, his life snuffed out because the system decided he was expendable. The current stops. George slumps forward, held upright only by the straps. From the metal cap, smoke rises. The smell of burned flesh fills the room. A doctor approaches, checks for a pulse, and nods. George Stinney Jr. is dead. He is 14 years old. He weighs 95 lb. He is the youngest person executed in the United States in the 20th century. In silence, the witnesses file out. Their stories the reporters write. The headlines the newspapers print. Negro boy executed for double murder. There is no outrage, no calls for investigation, no questions asked. In 1944, South Carolina, this is simply how things are. A black child accused by white authority does not get justice. He gets a Bible to sit on and a mask that does not fit. To a pauper's grave, George's body is taken. There is no headstone, no marker. His family is not notified in time to claim him. They do not attend the burial. For years, they do not even know where he is buried. He simply disappears, erased from the world, as if he never existed. But George's family remembers. His mother never recovers. A broken woman, she dies, carrying the weight of her son's death until her own. In silence, his father grows old, unable to speak about what happened. His siblings scatter, carrying the trauma with them, passing it down to their children like an inheritance of grief. The white community moves on. The girls are buried. The families mourn. Life returns to normal. No one speaks of George Stinney. No one wonders if they got it wrong. The case is closed. The books are balanced. Justice, they believe, has been served. But justice was never in that courtroom. Justice was never in that chair. What happened to George Stinney was not justice. It was murder. Legal murder. Murder wrapped in the language of law and order. Murder committed by a system that valued white lives over black lives, that saw black children not as children, but as threats to be eliminated. Decades pass, the story fades, the witnesses die, the reporters die, the judge, the jury, the executioner all die. But the truth does not die. It lingers in archives, in court records, in the memories of those who refuse to forget. In 2004, a historian named George Frierson begins researching the case. He is George Stinney's schoolmate, one of the few people still alive who remembers him as a real boy, not a headline. Through records, Frierson digs. He interviews elderly residents. He uncovers the glaring holes in the case. No physical evidence, no credible confession, no fair trial. To a lawyer named Matt Burgess, he brings his findings, who agrees to seek exoneration. In 2014, 70 years after George's execution, a hearing is held. Witnesses testify. Evidence experts present. No defense the state offers because there is no defense to offer. On December 17, 2014, Judge Carmen Mullen vacates George Stinney's conviction. She writes that he was denied due process, that his confession, if it existed, was coerced, that his trial was a mockery of justice. She writes that George Stinney was innocent, but innocence comes too late. It always does. George is not alive to hear the judge's words. He is not alive to see his name cleared. He is not alive to go home. In South Carolina, there is a park now where children play. In the wind swings creek. Across the grass laughter echoes. And somewhere beneath that same southern sky in an unmarked grave, George Stinney rests. He never grew up. He never fell in love. He never had children of his own. He never got to see his mother again. But his story refuses to stay buried. Like smoke from that terrible chair, it rises, spreading across generations, forcing people to confront what was done in the name of justice. George's case is taught in law schools now. In arguments against the death penalty, it is cited. It is remembered as a warning of what happens when fear and prejudice replace evidence and truth. 70 years after his death, George Stinney's name was cleared. But clearing a name does not bring back a life. It does not undo the terror of those final moments. It does not comfort a mother who died still believing her son would come home. It simply acknowledges what should have been obvious from the beginning, that a 14-year-old boy, alone and afraid, was killed by a system that never saw him as human. A Bible under him they put so he would fit the chair. Think about that. The Word of God they used to make it easier to kill a child. That image should haunt us. It should make us ask hard questions about justice, about mercy, about who we protect and who we sacrifice. George Stinney Jeter was too small for that chair. He was too young for that verdict. He was too innocent for that death. And though the state has finally admitted its mistake, George is still gone, still silent, still waiting for a justice that will never fully come. His story must never be forgotten.